I've been coming to Italy for almost 20 years now, and Italy is one of my favorite countries in the world. The best food in the world,
yes,
and the best fans in the world. Literally my favorite audience in the world to play to, the most passionate fans in the world, as you see at these autograph sessions.
So now we show them how many people are waiting. They said it's about, how many, Miguel? About 700 people over there.
Yeah, 4.
I hope I can get to them all. I hope. I don't want to disappoint anybody.
No,
but that's a lot of people for a signing. Should I say something or no? Buongiorno!
We are in Rome for the European Meet and Greet 2011. Were you aware of the fact that you were writing a part of history of the
Well,
drumming?
thank you. It's always a big compliment for me. It's very flattering for me. I never set out to be a drum influence or a drum hero, so to me it's all been a nice flattering surprise. I'm just a music fan that loves music and loves drums and just wants to be creative. So that I've struck a nerve to young drummers around the world, it's amazing, and I just hope that I can always live up to their expectations. But I don't consider myself a technical drummer at all. I'm just a music lover, like I said, and the drums happen to be my tool of expression. Performance is very important to me. I mean, as much as I grew up loving you know, technical drummers like maybe Neil Peart or Bill Bruford or whatever, Simon Phillips, Terry Bozzio. As much as I love them, I also really loved performers, and Keith Moon is one of my greatest heroes of all time, and he wasn't a technical drummer at all. He was a performer, and I just enjoyed watching him. Somebody like Lars Ulrich from Metallica, the same thing. He's not that technically great, but he's just a presence on stage that excites you when you go to the concert, and I always put a big emphasis on that as well. That's very important to me. Frank Zappa is probably my greatest musical hero of all time, and he's not a drummer. Well, actually, he was a drummer in the beginning, but the point is that it's not just drummers who inspire me. It's great songwriters and musicians in general. You know, Frank Zappa and Pete Townsend, Jimmy Page, John Lennon. None of them are drummers, but yet they really influenced me as much as any other drummer. But Frank Zappa, in particular, his musical. He was just so musically advanced. He was like a classical artist in a pop rock kind of jazz format, and the fact that he was writing such intricate music with incredible time signatures and polyrhythms and things like that. Once I really wanted to learn more about music, his music was the one that just blew my mind wide open. And he always had the most amazing bands. And his drummers in particular were a huge influence on me. Terry Bozzio, Vinnie Colaiuta, you know, the albums that he did mainly in the 70s for me was just mind-blowing, and I learned so much from his drummers and his bands and his music. I'm influenced and inspired by artists in general, and it could be like other musicians and other instruments like I just pointed out, but it's also other mediums like filmmakers like Stanley Kubrick and P.T. Anderson and David Lynch. These are some of my biggest artistic heroes, and just the way that they make film, you know, the pacing and the cinematography and the editing, that inspires me just as much as any musician or drummer. My passion for music and my drive and my focus and my inspiration transcends the drums. I mean, the drums, like I said earlier, that's my tool. That's how I communicate myself physically with an instrument. However, all of the other areas are just as important. You know, in my 25 years of Dream Theater, being the drummer was just one of like hundreds of hats I wore. You know, I was involved with the songwriting and the lyrics and the melodies and the production and directing the DVDs and overseeing the merchandise and the websites and the fan clubs. To me, being an artist, you know, transcends just a particular instrument.
Can you name only one record that you consider as the most important to your drumming?
Wow. I don't know if I could pick one. There's many. Oh God! You know, Sgt. Pepper by the Beatles. It was completed the day I was born. Actually, April 20th, 1967 was the day that they finished recording that album, and it came out 6 weeks later. The Beatles, to me, are my all-time greatest influence as a band, and so all the Beatles albums, but Sgt. Pepper for some reason rings a bell. Maybe just because it's timed the same as my life. Tommy by The Who, you know, had a huge influence on me when I was a child. We were talking about Frank Zappa, so many Zappa albums, Chica Booty, Joe's Garage, Roxy and Elsewhere, those were big ones for me. Rush's catalog, especially in the late 70s and early 80s, you know, albums like Hemispheres, Permanent Waves, Moving Pictures, those albums had a big impact on my drumming. These are some of my big ones. Led Zeppelin as well. John Bonham is a huge, huge favorite of mine, so, you know, everything John Bonham ever did. So these are the big ones for me. My Beatles tribute band is Yellow Matta Custard. In fact, I'm wearing the t-shirt right now. There you go. Available at MikePortnoy.com. Yellow Matta Custard is something that I formed back in 2003, and we did 2 shows back then. And it was basically an outlet for my love for the Beatles. And we had so much fun with those 2 shows in 2003 that now here in 2011, you know, I had a little bit of available time in my schedule. I decided it would be fun to reunite the band and do some more shows. So we did 3 shows this year. We did LA, Chicago, and New York. And in 2003, we did 30 songs. And this year we did 40 songs, and none of them repeated. So we actually have 70 songs now that we've played. And I think we only even scratched the surface of the Beatles' great catalog. But for me, it's just a fun thing, just because I love the Beatles so much, and they're, you know, the biggest influence on my life. And I gathered another group of Beatles fanatics: Paul Gilbert on guitar, Neil Morse on keyboards and guitar, and Matt Bissonette in 2003, and Kasim Sultan in 2011 on bass. And I chose guys that were as big Beatle fans as I am. And when I chose the set list, it wasn't just picking the hit songs. There wasn't like She Love You and She Loves You and Let It Be and Long and Winding Road and Hey Jude. None of that. It was more the deeper stuff, like Think for Yourself and Flying and Lovely Rita, stuff that you haven't heard covered by other Beatles bands.
Which is very interesting. So we'll wait for your band to come to Italy.
I would love to. I mean, right now we've only done 5 shows in the history of the band, and they were all in America. So if in the future I could bring it over here to Italy or anywhere in Europe or anywhere overseas, it would be so much fun for me. It's really just a fun thing, and anybody that is a Beatles fan, or even if you're not a Beatles fan, I think you come out to the show and you just have a good time.
You have achieved many awards in your career. I found impressive the 12 years in a row of the best progressive rock drummer. Apart from this, for a musician with so many years of career, there is a risk of repeating himself.
I'll tell you, it's incredibly flattering to have won all these awards, but at the same time, it puts a tremendous amount of pressure on me to live up to expectations and to live up to my reputation. Like sometimes I'll go to these drum festivals or drum shows, and there I'll be with Vinnie Colaiuta or Steve Smith or Dave Weckl, people that are these drum legends to me, and they know my name from having won all of these awards. So I feel very intimidated. Like, I'm not that good. I never wanted to win all these awards. Thank you, but I don't. What can I do to live up to that reputation? Sometimes I think like it's my reputation is bigger than me almost. So to me, it's a tremendous amount of pressure to every time I make a record to do something that's going to, reach out to drummers and create something that drummers will enjoy. But like I said at the beginning of the interview, I never set out to be this drum hero. I'm a fan that just wants to make music. When I finally didn't win it one year, it was like, thank God. I mean, don't get me wrong, I like it. It's nice. And I like winning, but, it's also nice to not have that pressure, My career has been a dream come true, and it's something I have so much gratitude for, and really, it's not something I could take the credit for. It's something that the fans get the credit for. I somehow have acquired the greatest fans in the world. They just stand by me, and granted that not all of them do. There's times when there's a lot of drama and controversy amongst my fans because they're so passionate, but it's their passion that has driven me for all these years to work so hard for them. And my career has been a dream come true. To won the awards like you just mentioned. That's a dream for me, to be in the Modern Drummer Hall of Fame. Never in a million years would I have dreamt that, and to have played the shows I've played throughout my career, and to toured with the bands I've toured with, and to have been able to put together the side projects with such great musicians that I love and admire. I could die a happy camper right now. I feel like I really have, succeeded with everything I ever dreamt of. And thank you so much to the great fans for making those dreams come true. To be honest, I'm not so familiar with so many Italian drummers. When we come here and tour in Italy, I'll maybe meet some younger drummers, or maybe there'll be there's been a few times we've had Italian bands play with us, and I'm always impressed by the musicianship of the Italian musicians. I think they really love progressive music, and they, there's a lot of young drummers and even older drummers, bands like PFM that came way before Dream Theater, that have paved the way for progressive music and progressive drumming. So the Italian scene is always, and there's also so many great, even American musicians with Italian heritage, people like Steve Vai and Frank Zappa, people like that. So I have a tremendous amount of respect for the Italian music scene. The internet, for me personally, and for Dream Theater through the years, has been an incredibly valuable tool. Before the internet, the first 10 or 15 years of Dream Theater, it was very hard for us because we were at the mercy of the music industry and the record companies and mainstream magazines and radios and TV that doesn't really care for a band like Dream Theater that plays 15-minute songs. So it was very difficult for us in the early years. Once the internet came around in the mid to late 90s, ever since then, Dream Theater's career, skyrocketed because we suddenly were able to promote our tour dates and our music and our releases and our interviews and our press, directly to the fans. We didn't have to go through a Rolling Stone magazine or an MTV. We were able to have direct access to our fans, and our fans were able to have direct access to us. So, especially for like the type of music I'm involved with, the internet has been incredibly valuable, and I treat it with tremendous amount of value. I spend a tremendous amount of time overseeing my website, my Facebook, and my Twitter, and communicating with the fans. And sometimes I get in trouble for it because I am so open with my fans. Now, a lot of times, every single word I say is dissected and ridiculed, and sometimes it gets me in trouble. But you know what? I don't care about that. I like that I have an open relationship with my fans because of the internet, and to me, that's been a very, very important tool for the development of my career. Well, I'd just like to thank you for having me here. I'd like to thank my Italian fans for being so welcoming to me, as always, on my trip here. It's amazing that I actually doing a meet and greet and autograph session, that we're actually here for 2 days. That the Italian fans are that great and that supportive, that even one day of an autograph session isn't enough, says so much for the great fans here in Italy. And I appreciate their support during this transitional phase of my life and my career, and their support for all these years has meant the world to me, and I will continue to give everything to the fans and make great music for them to support and be involved with.
And I would like to add that you're not only a great drummer, but you're also a great man. Thank you for being with me.
Grazie. Ciao, baby.